Yo, you want to learn how to do an infinite?
Hey, it's me. I'm back with more speedy bean juice and chaotic animation, because, you know, that's just the vibe we're going for now, I guess. Ah, it's hot. So, hi everyone. It's me, doing more of this. We're actually going to start animating now. Here we have a sort of roadmap kind of thing of all of the animations that I need to do in order to make this character work, kind of. This isn't entirely finished either, but we are currently on 35 separate moves. I don't know how this is going to go down at all in the slightest. But what I figured, I need to figure out what AZRI's standing idle is going to be. You know, it's the this, what's her this pose? Because that's kind of where all the animation comes from and needs to blend back to when making a playable character. I think I could be talking out my ass. So here's Maya. Here is Autodesk Maya. It's the software I'm using to animate it. Here is the rig with most of the options hidden. Now I throw some more on. My phone buzzed. Yeah. These controllers, it's a very detailed rig, it's cool, I've got even more stuff, blah de blah de blah. I may have already gone over this. However, we're going to turn all of this off for now. And that is our rig. Normally, she doesn't have the sword in her hand starting off, I just put it there for ease of use, because what I've done is I have made already some key poses. There we go, that's what we wanted for AZRI. So, the reason I've done it like this is because I am not sure what I'm doing yet. Incorrect. I haven't chosen which pose I'm going to start from. I've done 8, or I've come up with 8, that I've kind of been like, okay, let's try this out, let's see how this looks, and let's see if we can work with that, I guess. Excellent. So, I actually, these last two ones were ones that I did this morning as variations, because I kind of already really like this one, and I wanted to see. But what I did to start this process was I took a load of pictures of me, this, I'll probably put them on screen now, kind of trying out different idle poses just to give myself like a feel for how it might be to actually take those poses on. And then I just did a thing. I posed AZRI to do that herself. My brain's gone. And some of them I looked at other fighting game characters for inspiration. Some of them I drew inspiration from actual historical European martial arts, because longsword. And then one of them was just, yeah, I just straight out ripped it from Guilty Gear, but then I mimicked the pose in real life anyway, so it's all good. So things to kind of consider when doing something like this is silhouette. The thing with fighting game animation is strong key poses are like the most important thing you need to get down, because it needs to be readable, and it needs to, it just needs to be like instant what it is this character's doing. But you're not going to get good animation without good key poses. So what we're really looking at is the silhouette of the character. Now, these two different camera perspectives I have up, one of them is perspective, so it's actually got depth to it and all that, which is crazy. And this is the one that I use mostly for actually posing the characters, because it means I can swing around them and attach details. There's been bits where the cloth has just gone like through the character model like that, so you got to go around and fix it. Make sure it looks good from all angles. Although thinking about it, doesn't actually matter that much, and I'll get into that why. I recently saw a GDC talk that Capcom did about the art direction of Street Fighter V, and something I found quite interesting that they brought up was this view, the fact that their characters are filmed in orthographic rather than perspective. So what that means is, while these are technically the same angle, you see the floor kind of stretches out into the background, whereas here the floor is just a solid block. And that's because this camera angle on the left here doesn't have any depth to it whatsoever. And this is actually very important for fighting games, because as soon as you start adding depth, things start getting warped. So the closer you get to the edge of the screen, or the camera in this case, proportions are going to change, things are going to be longer or shorter than they should be, and considering how fighting game hitboxes work, that's a bad idea. I'm not ill, I promise. We want to keep that in mind, definitely. So, while I am able to make sure it looks good from all angles, I probably don't actually need to, and I think once I get into the habit of not worrying so much about that, that's gonna help me just do better at this. Because really, I'm playing to this camera more than I'm playing to an entire worldview. I'm not making Tekken, I'm not doing Soul Calibur. I don't have to worry about how the camera is going to pan around stuff. When we get to doing super moves and stuff, that's when I'm going to start messing more with actual camera work, because I don't have to do it from just the side on. So let's have a look at these key poses. So let's look at this one, which I've already kind of decided might be the best. I just really like how this one looks. It's got a nice curve there. It all kind of flows into one shape. My only gripe is you can't really see the sword as well. It's just the pommel at the end, but if you let me just turn that back on, you can kind of still see from, because what's the name of this bit? The handle. Yeah, the handle's wrapped and is quite high contrast in comparison. You can still kind of see it's a sword. Something I didn't realise was, while I was posing with this one, is that this gives it a much stronger silhouette than AZRI's sword actually has. There isn't as big a crossguard on this one. It's kind of all in this one teardrop shape. And it looks great. I love that sword. It looks very nice. But it's not going to stand out as much against the background, because it's not got like a defined crossguard that really sticks out. But that's fine. This one's a bit more stereotypical. I was looking at Geralt from Soul Calibur when I was making this one. And something a game I forgot about that actually I'm going to have to look at more upon closer inspection is Granblue Fantasy Versus, because that's kind of doing exactly what I want to do, but with heavier anime style, because Arc System works, and it looks fantastic. But I'm definitely going to be peeping at those posings and stuff. This one I don't like as much. You can see the sword very clearly. You can see it very clearly, but I don't know. It just doesn't stand out as much, and it's very basic. And you kind of have a bit of Mortal Kombat style posing going on there, where her head is just like directly facing the camera, and that's not what you want. It was a concept in that GDC talk actually that got brought up by Capcom, which is largely adopted by most other fighting games as well, because I've seen it used in Arc System Works' stuff. Is the 5-degree rule. So you want to make sure your character is like, if it doesn't look right, angle it 5 degrees more towards the camera, which is why this is kind of looking the way it does. Like, you'd never take that stance against someone in real life, because what they'd see is this, and that's a terrible stance. But we're not doing realistic, we're playing to a camera, and that's exactly what that's there for. That's why the 5-degree rule is the thing. Whereas with this one, yeah, she's looking straight ahead. This would be a great stance for a fully 3D game, actually, I think. It doesn't really... Oh yeah, I like that. I like that from like an over-the-shoulder kind of perspective. Anyway, not useful for what we're going for. Not in this case. This one. This was me trying to make the sword stronger against AZRI's silhouette than in the... not that one. Than this one. But, I don't know. I'm not a massive fan. Still kind of got this similar kind of lines, if we turn off the light. There's something that just doesn't look quite right. Maybe if I fiddle with it a bit more, but... Nah. Sorry, I just don't feel it, to be quite honest. I do kind of like how it makes that K shape, but I don't think it's what we're going for. Yeah, this is me just straight up ripping off Kai from Guilty Gear. It's a great pose, and it's fun doing these different poses because it means I get like a stronger understanding of how the rig can move. It's kind of already adopted by a character, so I don't. It's a nice tribute. I might include it in other things, but the sword kind of cuts off a lot of her head, especially in orthographic, and her leg kind of looks a little weird. So I'm not gonna use that one, but I am gonna definitely keep it around for later. But it's just not a very practical pose. I know I had that big talk earlier about practicality and stuff, but I don't know. I just don't think it'll in this scenario work. Next up. Yes, here we go. This one was fun. This is just straight up a pose from Hema. It's a low guard pose that's like actually used by people in combat. So I was thinking, yeah, maybe it wouldn't be such a bad idea. But here's the thing: is because of the sword and the way things move about. If I currently have it mapped to the right hand, so it's parented to follow the right hand's motion. So the sword will move with the right hand. However, the left hand ain't gonna move along with it. And I know I did want to do some two-handed attacks in this, so I'm gonna have to figure out this problem eventually. But if I do it from her idle pose, it's just going to be a pain to constantly have to move this hand, especially because the way I've got it set right now is I have to move her shoulder, her elbow, and her wrist in order to pose the arm. There is an option to do it from the hand. If I turn that on, where you get this box and you can just drag it about, and it will affect the entire arm. The only problem being is that once you do that, all the other it becomes locked to FK, I think it is. I can never remember which way around it is, but it becomes locked to that for the entire scene. So I'm gonna turn that off. So while it definitely could be good, and I'll be incorporating that, trying to anyway, later, just not in the idle. Plus, it does kind of look weird. It looks a lot nicer in orthographic than it does outside of it, but even still, the sword's so close to her body, and that, or a saying that kind of stood out while it was up there, kind of blends into the leather on her while she's holding it close to her, so it's not great. But it was an interesting challenge trying to get her to hold the sword this certain way. For a couple of reasons. This is more of a regal kind of pose. I think it could do some work, but I kind of like it. I think it's a bit too upstanding. I think that's not the word I'm going for. Posh, almost, for the kind of character I'm imagining AZRI is. Spent a while trying to get the sword to look right, and it just kind of doesn't. Her legs are a little bit funky because the proportions on this rig are a little bit funky, so I think I need to play into those strengths a bit more. It looks better from perspective, but we're not going for that. It does make the sword look a lot shorter. And again, you got the like 90-degree camera facing for her face again, which is not great. It doesn't look nearly as good. But yeah, it's a kind of a same as this pose. It's just a little too relaxed, a little too hoity-toity. I like it on other characters, but I wouldn't necessarily attribute to her. I think she's going to be a little bit rougher than that. This one, okay, so here we get to, this is the point where I decided, actually, I really like this first pose that I did. I adjusted the arms a tiny bit, the tiniest amount, to make sure so the hilt was going further upwards. Just made a stronger impression, and you can see the sword going down her back from that point as well, which is great. I really like how that looks. I think is a very strong contender to being the pose, which she'll then bob about in idle. I had to do a bit of braking to get there because, as you can see, the sword is nowhere near touching her back. partially because of the hair. I was trying to avoid having it clip through the hair. But also her arm is in some wacky positions because the arms on this rig are a bit short and her legs are a bit long. And I can kind of relate with being, you know, 95% leg myself. It does make translating poses from real life onto AZRI a little bit more awkward than it could be. Because what I was really trying to go for was this was a pose I did when I had the sword on me, and it felt really natural and it felt really nice. And I really liked the kind of line of action the sword had when it was going across my shoulder, like that. The problem is actually achieving that pose on AZRI because of the way her arms are shaped and move and lengthened, or not lengthened per se. It was just, it took me so long trying to get to this pose, and I don't think it's just going to be practical. Again, I had to do so much work, and while it looks great here, you can see her wrist is just, you can't move your wrist back that far. Not like that. That's going at an unnatural angle. You can only angle it back so far, and it just doesn't work. Granted, it looks fine in that view, which is honestly better. But I don't know. I don't want to go for it. I think our best contender here is this one. I'm really happy with this one actually, especially with the sword going down her back. That's a really comfortable stance that can just go into about anything, which is good. She can easily crouch with that. She can throw a punch with, oh gosh, I know I did that. If I just do this. That can go straight into a jab, or a spell cast or whatever. She can bring that down and like whap. You can get so many angles from that pose in particular, and the fact that it's on her back gives it a lot more of like a build-up, essentially. So I think we found it. I think we found our pose. This is how AZRI is going to stand. Great. Well, I'm glad we came to a conclusion on that. I've only been yelling at myself for 25 minutes. Not bad. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to select all of this and start animating the idol. Heck yeah. Well, I'm going to do that, and then I will get back to you guys about how that is going. Yeah! Oh, this is exciting.